Hello, and thank you for joining us on ABC24 this week. I am your host, Pepper Baker. You are here for the real stories behind the big stories, and I hope you'll continue to watch every Sunday. So let's get right to it. Let's bring in our lovely panelists. Of course, we have ABC political analyst Otis Sanford, I should say ABC24. We have MLK 50 reporter Catherine Burgess, and then we have former Memphis City Councilwoman and former Memphis Shelby County School Board. Lots of titles here. Tawan Stout Mitchell. Thank you all so much for being here, of course, as always. All right, so we have a lot to get to today, so let's go ahead and get to those topics, starting off with Tennessee Governor Bill Lee coming to Memphis with an update on the National Guard deployment. Then we'll talk about MSCS elections on the 2026 ballot. And we'll end with where the case for the ex-officers charged in Tyree Nichols' death stands. Of course, lots to get to, so let's get back to number one. Governor Bill Lee made a stop in Memphis at the THP Headquarters in Bartlett to talk about the National Guard deployment. And Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner, MPD Chief C.J. Davis, and Memphis Mayor Paul Young were standing behind him at the podium. Lee stressed the collaborative crime-fighting efforts with local, state, and federal agencies and creating long-term solutions. He also mentioned the operations for the Memphis Safe Task Force will begin next week. Everyone wants to know, of course, will the National Guardsmen be armed and will they be able to make arrests? Here's what he said.
So the Guard will not be making arrests, and the Guard will not be armed except and unless the local law enforcement makes requests for that. So this is mission dependent, which means that when we begin this operation, we're going to understand a whole lot more about what's necessary out there. And information from the police department, for example, on what support they need will determine and drive whether or not a particular National Guardsman is armed. If that's what's necessary to support the Memphis Police Department, then that will be a decision that's made at the time. But a lot of this is going to be mission dependent. But the National Guard will be used as support. They'll not be making arrests.
Now, Lee still did not have an exact answer on how many National Guardsmen will be expected on the streets. He did say they assigned 300 additional highway patrolmen to the region already. So that brings us now to discussion. Otis, I'll start off with you. We're finally seeing Memphis Mayor Paul Young and Governor Bill Lee on this united front announcement. We talked a little bit about that last show, but what exactly stood out to you?
Well, the first thing that stood out was something that I and others have been saying all along: come to Memphis and speak to the people directly, speak to the public, and show that if this is a united front, show that to the public. And I'm glad that he did that. I'm also glad that he projected a collaborative effort, as you mentioned. I didn't see a lot of smiles from the mayor and Chief C.J. Davis, but at least they are all making the best of a sort of uncomfortable situation here. So it was encouraging. One thing that I didn't hear was a specific assurance to the public that there will be no racial profiling and sort of infringing on people's individual rights here. You know, there's a reason that some people in this community are opposed to this. And I think one of those reasons is that they've seen this administration sort of run roughshod over people. And we've seen in other towns where people were snatched off the street, including U.S. citizens. So that's one of the reasons why there has been some discontent to this. So he did not address that, but overall, I thought it was encouraging and did strike a collaborative tone.
So, Tawan, I want to toss it to you now. The key words when you say that mission dependent is what Governor Lee was saying there. So collaboration has been the talk of the town. And it sounded like they were going to take direction from MPD. Do you buy into collaboration, or do you think this is, are you convinced?
I'm always supportive of collaboration. And it appears from the onset that the mayor has gained some good common ground with them to protect citizens and citizens' rights and to eliminate a lot of guns toting people on the street. And it appears that way. But that agreement and collaboration is only as good as the people who gave their word. This is the way we're going to go. And there's only one person who was not seen on that video that I worry about, and that is the man in the White House. They did not discuss the negatives that were found in D.C. that we can look to see here and how we minimize those negatives. Some were road closures and the delay of time for citizens getting back forth from work and home and their daily lives. Another one was the presence of heavy security would scare away tourists. Memphis is a big tourist town, and that should be of concern, especially for hotels and for restaurants. And then there was a tendency for people to stay at home instead of shopping out, and that will hurt our local economy. And finally, if we have a lot of large military cars and vehicles, it will destroy the roads, and then that will be a cost for citizens to bear when they're gone. I said finally, but one last thing. They used a lot of catch and release tactics. And a lot of innocent people get caught up in that kind of tactic, which means if you get caught up in that, you're not only late for work, you'll miss work. You may miss days with our justice system backup from work. And that will hurt citizens and it will hurt employees.
Those are
employers.
All good points made there, and we definitely don't need any more torn up roads in
No.
Memphis.
No.
Yeah, Catherine, I want to ask you now.
Thought that'd get you out.
Yeah, you're speaking to the masses there. So, Catherine, I want to ask you, this is 13 agencies. We're hearing that the National Guardsmen from the governor won't be arresting or armed. However, he also said that the U.S. Marshal Service is chairing this. So bring a little bit more just words to the different agencies and what you think and what you followed of how that could play out.
Well, I think the governor is right when he says this is an unprecedented level of attention on a city and an unprecedented level of agencies coming together on a city. Certainly, I think, though, that could be for good or for bad. And I think that will be borne out in the data after whatever this time period ends. I am, like Otis, glad that the governor came to Memphis, that he answered questions from the media, but I still have so many other questions, including what does it mean for them to be deputized by the U.S. Marshals? If they're not doing arrests, why are they being deputized? What does support of local law enforcement look like? Are they going to be doing data input? Are they going to be doing blight remediation? Will they be doing road closures? There's just so many things we don't know. And I think that's what's really troubling to the public and to me at this point in time. We still have so many more questions.
You know, politically speaking, what struck me was Governor Lee and President Trump have no other terms that they can aspire to in those positions. Mayor Paul Young is in a different situation. This has got to go well for him.
It does. One other quick point I want to make is that somebody asked him at the press conference, the governor, what will success look like? And he talked about success will look like citizens being feeling safer, and businesses, large and small, feeling safer. I want to add one other one. I think success will look, it will be successful if we actually have fewer arrests and not more. They were talking a lot about arrests and they were clearing out beds for arrests. But really, success will be if you don't have to arrest anybody.
It really would.
Which means that the criminals, the would-be criminals, are thinking twice about what they're going to do. That is success for me. Fewer arrests and not more.
Like the presence alone will do enough.
And I think in particular, I am concerned about the emphasis on arrests and the emphasis on jailing people, because the data shows that more arrests and people spending more time in jail does not actually create less crime. In fact, the more you jail people, often the more they recidivate and do more crime. So that's deeply concerning to me. Also, I recently heard a young person read some data from DC before the Shelby County Commission, and this young person read a lot of data about how young people were a lot of the targets in similar actions in DC for petty things, for drinking, for weed, for being out past curfew, things that we simply don't need Memphis kids getting caught up for, potentially getting detained at the juvenile detention center. None of that's good.
That's a lot. That's a
I
lot.
guess that's why, too, it disappointed me that we didn't have one legislative body to vote to make a statement that this is unnecessary and we want opportunity versus occupation. But we're going to work with law enforcement for the better of Memphis. But for the history's sake, it disappoints me that not one legislative body had the courage of conviction to say no, like the mayors did.
All right, well, there's going to be a lot more to come from this as it rolls out next week, so hopefully we'll get all those questions answered. We got to turn it now to the break, but on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about MSCS board elections now aligning with the county commissions. Stay with us.